TR Connections Radio presents.
Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the Professionals Podcast. I am your host, Rachel West, and I am an empowerment coach. I specialize in mindset, mental wellness, and addiction recovery. And I have a belief that when we take the time to get to know others, we find that we have a lot more in common than we do different. So I like to bring on special guests to talk about the behind the scenes of a professional and what we go through in our everyday life and the struggles and obstacles that we have to overcome as professionals. So today I have a very special guest, Jennifer Freer. Welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you, Rachel, so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Yes, I'm so excited to chat with you and tell our listeners all about what you do. I love what you do and how you heal and your journey as a light worker. So let's jump right in and just share a quick 5-minute or so background on how you got to where you are today and your journey to becoming a light worker and helping other light workers.
Beautiful. Thanks, Rachel. Okay, yes, I will give you a very good condensed version because it's a story I've told many times. So it's easy by now. But yeah, so I grew up with not in a religious family. So I think that helped me introduce my beliefs in God in something that I was more in control of, like that was more connected to me. So I grew up just believing like a higher power was available to us at all time. So I would say my family was pretty spiritual. I knew at a young age I was an empath. At in 8th grade, I wrote a paper about it. And during that time too, we had a lot of animals and I loved animals very much. We had horses, chickens, cats, dogs, reptiles, like you name it, right? So that was really fun to experiment with. But then my parents got divorced and it was a very traumatic situation. And in that moment, I felt this deep knowing of, you're here to break the cycle. It was like a voice that was shared to me. I say that it was like the voice of God, right? Telling me like, you're here to break the cycle. And I didn't know what that was at the time. I thought that meant through counseling or something like that. I was 12 years old at the time. And immediately I started going to talk therapy to help me with my trauma. And I felt like there was something missing on that. But in the meantime, in my professional career, I started working with animals at like 17. I've started as a veterinary assistant, or kennel attendant, veterinary assistant. And what I was noticing in the hospitals is that my goal was really to help everyone get into a calm environment because veterinary hospitals can be very stressful for the pet and the owner, right? Especially if your pet doesn't like going to the vet. So I would make it my goal to kind of provide some sort of calming situation. And then with my energy, and so I noticed the animals that were usually nervous around others, I was able to hold them for the vet and it was minimal stress between like the animal and just everyone involved. And then after that, I started working at the zoo, which is we had a roadside situation, Las Vegas Zoo. So it was kind of a rescue mission and these animals had been taken care of by people who didn't understand them. So they were very reactive and scared, like in their home environment, right? Which was the zoo. So when I came in with another zookeeper who was doing the same sort of thing. And we, helped the animals and we were hoping that it was going to close, but it didn't. And so anyway, I ended up having to walk away from a bunch of animals and it was just like a very healing time, right? I don't want to say healing, but it got me in touch with my emotions a lot more because I was just in these extreme situations. And at the same time, I was healing with my trauma. So anyway, fast forward to, I had my whole animal journey. I ended up moving out to Texas, worked at a wildlife sanctuary. And again, I was noticing just my connection with animals, right? Just how I can make them feel like at home and at peace. And then at the same time, I was working on my emotional issues and I was starting to know enough then that my thoughts created my physical disease that was going on in my body, right? So if I had something wrong with my shoulder, or if I got a UTI, or if I got really, really sick, I was like, okay, something in here is not helping me, right? I was listening to a lot of Louise Hay, and so she's like the queen of affirmations and all the things. So anyway, I decided to move back home. This was 2016. My mom had just graduated from massage therapy. So she was also, like I said, we knew that we were sensitive beings and energetic beings, and she could read energy and stuff like that. When she became a massage therapist, those got more intense, like the messages. So anyway, she would let me practice out of her massage space on people when I got Reiki certified. And I was having like massive success within the first 1 or 2 sessions. Like people's caffeine cravings would go away, like people's pain dramatically decreased. I've obviously I'm not a medical doctor. This is not medical advice at all, but nodules like on the neck or under the armpit would dissolve within like 1 session or 2 sessions. And so I knew, right, that was like something that number one, I'm interested in. Reiki really helped me. Energy healing really helped me when I started working at restaurants before I moved to Texas. And at that time, I was getting energy clearings by somebody my mom was seeing, so I started kind of getting introduced to it back then. And then it was something I knew I wanted to do. So yeah, that's basically, and then I've just been on that journey of building confidence and all that, which we'll talk about, I'm sure, at some point, of just being able to share my gifts, because I was finding, even though I knew I had amazing, that this is what I was supposed to do, I was still having a lot of anxiety around my sessions and a lot of lack of confidence, right? So that's what I help people through now. But yeah, I think that's all I'll give you.
Yeah, that's a lot. I love it. Thanks for sharing. Yeah, let's dive into the spiritual and religion aspect of the energy healing and modalities that you work on, because I have a personal belief that we're all born with a gift of some sort. And I really believe that as a child, as a kid growing up, we start experiencing things in our life that are kind of opening our awareness to this gift. And sometimes we realize it and sometimes we don't realize it. And then as we grow older and we become an adult, sometimes we have ignored it or suppressed it or passed it aside as something, or we're told that that's nothing, or something happens and you're weird if you think this, or all that sort of thing. But me, I came from a religious background. I was born into a Catholic family. We went to church every Sunday, went to Catholic school, we did all the things. And I knew at a very early age, like 5, 7-ish, that something was off in the religion specifically for me. I didn't know what or why or how or anything, but I just knew something was off. And I think we get these little signs through our life that is sending us in the right direction. And even if we go off path, it's still going to present itself, so that anytime we can find it and we can grab it and we can continue going in that direction. And so I want you to kind of talk more about your experiences in, maybe you did identify it then or didn't, and now looking back as an adult, now you can, recall a specific event that happened and can relate to what was happening then that you couldn't then, but now you can, or sorts of that. I kind of just want to dive into your experience in the spiritual realm and little things that have came up, and how you handled it then or did not, and how you are now.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I think that's a really good question. It's like very deep, right?
Yeah.
So I would say, I always felt that having a higher power and relying on God came up a lot. So I felt that I had and still feel that I had a very strong connection with God at a young age. And I think that really helped me. And again, it didn't come from like a place of guilt or shame to be connected to this energy, right? And so I feel like that really helped me have this inner knowing and feeling. And with the animals, I could communicate with them energetically, right? To where humans were confusing. They were just like saying one thing or just, and then feeling another way. And it was just kind of like, I knew that same thing like you at a young age, that like something else is going on here, that I don't think you guys are telling me the whole story. So then I started diving deeper, just kind of into like my family lineage and all that stuff. And, my parents are wonderful. My dad was a doctor. I would consider that of the healing energy. He was good at what he did. He was empathetic. He listened to his patients, and my mom, like I said, she was psychic, and because she worked with my dad, she started, like, she has medical medium gifts, right? Because she was exposed to the kind of the medical field first, and then more in her body and getting the messages second. So she knew what things were called or where organs were because she worked for my dad. She like ran his practice, right? And so anyway, we would talk about these gifts, right? And it wasn't like a coincidence that my mom, she would take us to furniture stores, consignment shops all the time and go read the energy, right? And so I would just think that like, it's like, whatever, my mom does this, like this is kind of annoying actually. Like sometimes it was really boring. And I didn't like the way that they felt. I didn't like the chaotic energy. I thought it was a lot. I was just like not into it, And so again, like my mom and I were able to talk about these things of like, oh, I don't like that energy and stuff like that. But I just felt very guided my entire life is like the point I'm saying of this. And I think our gifts come so natural to us that we do forget them, right? Or we don't recognize them. And so, or we don't know how to use them in a way that's helpful, right? Because maybe we're just like not ready to share them with everyone because we're still figuring out what it even means, And so, I really, so where my train of thought going on that? So I just think that, I've had experiences where I can see things and I can hear things, right? And there's like the mediumship and all that stuff. Again, like I don't really enjoy that energy. My mom does enjoy that energy. So that people will come see her more often, right? Or like she'll be more open to it. Me, I'm just like, I don't want to connect with that, right? I would just want to connect with light and angelic energy. And so again, I think that's okay for everyone to recognize, oh, this is what I was going to go into the gift. So like my being able to feel other people's emotions or being able to anticipate what people needed before they needed it, right? When I worked at an animal hospital, I was literally like his technician because I would be able to anticipate what he was wanting, right? And that really came from my childhood and needing to control everything so that everything felt safe, right? And so I was doing that. But this is a gift of mine. Now I'm so tuned in, I'm so hyper tuned in because of my practice as a child that now it's like breathing, for me to anticipate just the energy of something, you know what I mean? So I think that a lot of people can do that. And I think getting to know our body more, getting into our body more, being able to hear the subtleties of life and because energy is very subtle. And we're really used to being able to see things, or if things really shake up our world, then it's easier for us to like let the messages in that are coming through, right? Or we can tune ourselves to it. So yeah, did that answer your question, Rachel?
Yeah, it does.
Okay.
So what advice could you give to someone who maybe has started to notice their gifts or have noticed their gift, but really don't understand it or don't know if they want to go there? Somebody like just kind of their awareness is awakening to this gift. What advice could you help them to guide them to either start exploring it or I don't know. What advice could you give to somebody who might just be awakening to this gift?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So I think it's really important to have a spiritual practice or something that you really, but that will get you connected to God or light or a higher power or the universe, right? Because when you get more in tune with yourself, it's easier for you to know what your gifts are. right? It's easy for you to be really grounded and understand like what are the thoughts that you're thinking about these scenarios and that sort of stuff, you know? And so let's say you start to notice that you are intuitive, right? With your third eye, you start to see things or you know things before they happen. You know, that's like, again, it's like nothing to freak out about, right? But it just really depends on what you want to do. Like, do you want to help people with it? Like, do you want to do readings? Like, do you want to, like, what are the type of people that you want to help? I think would be the first kind of, you know, if you want to use it in like a spiritually based way. But if you're somebody who's just awakening, again, I would really advise to come to the body, start working on yourself, like going inside, develop a meditation practice so that you can be more clear about what spirit is saying to you. If that makes sense.
Yes.
Okay.
And now on the flip side, somebody is fully awakened, but they are afraid to step into their power. What advice could you give that person?
Okay.
Because I know you got an answer.
I know, I'm better at that answer for sure. I believe that again, I mentioned this earlier, that it's confidence issues. It's low self-esteem issues, right? And when you're anticipating, for me, would show up as, you know, getting these downloads to teach classes, you know, or getting opportunities to teach classes. And then I would have such anxiety about the event because I wanted it to go well, right? Because I care. I want things to go well for everybody, include, you know. And so then I would question my purpose, right? And I would be like, okay, well, if this is really something I'm meant to do, why does it feel so hard? Why do I feel so anxious? And so I would have this energy of going back and forth of like, I'm in it, I'm not in it, or I'm only in it when I feel good, right? And so noticing that. And then again, it was in the sessions, I would be really attached to the outcome. Like I really want to make sure that all the messages come through, that they feel a shift, that they're getting, you know, what they paid for, essentially, you know. And so, but I would not, because I was so much in my head, I would not be able to hear the messages clearly, or I wouldn't enjoy the session, right? And again, people were still getting amazing results, but I wasn't enjoying it. And I knew that my power would be more like potent if I was in that flow. And when I would get into the anxiety, I would say, please don't make it, help me not make it about me, right? Help me make it about this other person. So I would get out of just like this kind of whatever story I'm telling myself at the time. And so, yeah, I believe that we get a lot of validation from other people. And so too, if you have somebody who's not at the capacity to really be in touch with their emotions, or maybe they're even freaked out by what just happened, right? Because they've never gotten an energy healing or something like that before. If you're not able to just really stand in your knowing of your power and influence as like a light worker, right? A healer, somebody that's capable of holding this frequency for another person, you know, like, I forgot where I was going with that. I lost my train of thought. Yeah, so.
That's okay. I'll give you a second to think about it. But I want to highlight something that you said. So I'm going to reiterate it while you think of your thought. Okay. And the fact that your advice is to take yourself out of it and make it about them. Because in everything we do, whether it's light work or anything we're working with somebody else in any aspect, it's always about them and never about us. So when you can get to that level where you can step aside and tell yourself, yeah, I might be totally afraid to do this, and I'm going to put that aside for a moment, because whatever I have right now, this person or these people or whoever you are working with or in front of need to hear it, need to see it, need to feel it, need to think about it, whatever.
Yeah.
And so I really want to highlight, because that is great advice.
Yeah.
Talking about too.
Okay, perfect. No, I think that was like needed me to redirect. but yeah, that's just the way it can show up in a or like a lack of self-confidence way too, or not being able to show up to your work too, because you're so focused on, you're anticipating what people are going to say, right? Or you're worried it's not going to land, or you're worried, I would have things where I would post online all my spiritual stuff, and then I would go through what Brene Brown calls a vulnerability hangover, where you just like put all your stuff out there and then you're just like, I can't look. Do I delete this? Like, because all of these thoughts are like, get really, really loud. And I think that, I know for a fact, becoming a entrepreneur on the Lightworker path, it made me dive deeper into the depths of my soul, because all of your junk is going to come up when you start working for yourself, especially in this line of work, especially when it's so new. I was just talking about this before of like, we need to recognize that this is not something that's talked about a lot. It will be, and it is starting to. But like we're literally the pioneers, being like, oh yeah, I'm a Kundalini yoga teacher, a Reiki master, a healer, a wellness coach, a mindset coach, because really we know what we're helping people do. It's like it's hard for us to sometimes narrow it down, because it's like, well, how do you describe that you help people move through their trauma, or you know what I mean? Like, because not so, and sometimes it's not even well received. And so just honoring that of like, okay, this is okay, right? This is new, but that it is, something you're called to do. If you're watching this show and into this episode, like, you're for sure a light worker.
Yeah.
These are your gifts, is to really hold the energy, and be able, that as for us, just holding the energy of light and like building that all the time, every day for the rest of our life, that's going to impact people, just not even talking to them, right? It's just like, let's remember how powerful in our energy and our subtle bodies that we are, getting used to not being able to really physically see the changes, but feel them, and see them in the mind's eye probably. But yeah.
Yeah, I think so many people in society in general are taught that being vulnerable is a weakness, that you don't want to be vulnerable because you're viewed as weak. And I have learned in the past several years that it's really where your power is, because when you are vulnerable with somebody who's in front of you, your client, your family, your friends, your partner, whoever, it really allows you to connect, because we all have struggles of some sort. We all have traumas of some sort, big or small. It's still a trauma to the person, and it's still stored the exact same way. So when we start talking about them, and you're right, people don't really talk about them, and we are in this new era of talking about this awakening and the spiritual and energy work. And I have a lot of people in the holistic realm come be guests on here, but this is the first time we've gone really deep into this, and I'm really excited about this, because I went to a women's open house. It was for a women's clinic, and I was a vendor there, and there was maybe 6 other vendors, and I did a raffle for a free card reading. And I got the best feedback that, oh my gosh, we never see at events people being vocal about doing card readings, and they were like inspired that it's something that they don't see. And I had so many people signing up to win this raffle. And so it's great to start talking about it and encouraging people to develop whatever spirituality looks like to them. I feel like there's no right or wrong. There's no right religion or wrong religion or no religion. We all believe in a higher power of some sort, and that is the common ground, that we have this belief, we have this value, and it's important to us. And we know that there's a higher being, whatever that higher being is to you, is to you. And so, yes, I'm loving this conversation. Let's talk more about the modalities that you're using to help light workers to
Okay.
help heal the trauma, the neurology type work that's going on with people. And you've seen results immediately that comes up and comes out from people. And I really believe in like symptoms are just our body trying to tell us something is not right. And when we dig a little bit deeper, we do that inner work that's a little bit uncomfortable. But when you have somebody to guide you through it, it makes it so much easier. You have the cheerleader, you have the support system, you have somebody holding your hand, and that makes it so much more easier. So I want you to talk about the modalities that you're using and how it specifically helps people. And yeah, let's just talk more about that.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I think that definitely too is so important, like the mentor, or not even just mentor, but just like you said, having someone guide your hand or hold your hand, so that you don't feel crazy. You're like, oh, someone else, this isn't just a thought I think in my head. This person also has had that thought. And then that pressure goes away of that little voice that's like, rah, 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 something's wrong with you. Anyway, okay. So yeah, my number one tool that I love is teaching Kundalini yoga. It's such a powerful yoga. It's the yoga of self-awareness. And there's a teaching on it that if you do 1 year of Kundalini yoga, it's like doing 22 years of Hatha yoga. So it's very quick at clearing the energetic systems. And what it does too is it teaches you about your energetic bodies and your physical body. And that's what I really love about it too. We learn about our aura, we learn how to clear our arc lines, right? That halo energy you hear or you see depicted in paintings, right? It's from ear tip to ear tip. And then women also have one on their chest line, right? And so when you learn about how to clear your aura, how to clear your arc line, what your arc line holds, what memories do they hold, your subtle body, like I talked about, your subtle body leaves with your soul. It's like encapsulated in your subtle body, and everything that you've achieved in this lifetime, right, gets put in your subtle body and then goes with your soul. And so you learn about things like that right there, which I really, really loved because I really identified with what the teachings are. It's a lot of chanting, and it's a lot of mantra. It's a lot of breath work. Most of the time you're sitting in a seated position and you're really learning how to apply and engage different locks in your body so it stimulates your energy centers. And it's incredibly healing, especially for women, when you start to learn these locks and the postures and things. I've seen people, my friend of mine coming to yoga with me, Kundalini with me, and she hadn't had her period in 2 years. And after only a few months of practicing, she had a normal cycle again. Another close friend of mine that went, she didn't have, she had a hysterectomy, but she felt like she was connected to her uterus. Like, because if you have a hysterectomy, right, like obviously the body can be off balance, but I truly believe that you can visualize your uterus and you can get connected with the energy of it and help balance your body that way. And so this was confirmed that belief, because she was like, yeah, it's so weird. I'm getting in touch with something that's not even there. I feel like it's there again. And so this stuff is just very powerful. It makes you more psychic. It makes you more knowledgeable in your body, and it gives you the tools, because our nervous systems, technology is like really taxing on our nervous systems, and we do need to have systems in place to where our nervous system does strengthen. Like, we need to keep, what they say in Kundalini is like, keep up and you'll be kept up. And it's like, we have to keep up with the energy and with our bodies in a way that feels good for us. And of course, like you said, you can achieve this in many different ways. Kundalini is something that really, really worked for me and is what I love to share. The next part would be Reiki, energy healing, right? Those are the times that have been really miraculous physically. After a couple of sessions, and again, I got certified in 2016, and I've been practicing for a long time, right? And again, the more that you connect with Reiki energy or any healing modality, it's like connect with it every day in like a meditation or something, even if it's 5 minutes, right? So that energy can strengthen, because sometimes we forget, because again, it's so subtle and we can't see it. We have to feel it, that the more we connect with an energy, the stronger it will get. And so like, that will be really helpful if you're, a Reiki practitioner, or if you're somebody who wants to do hands-on healing, just connect with whatever modality it is and strengthen that relationship, even just by thinking about it. And that's the thing, is people get really in their heads because we think it has to look a certain way. I definitely was there. I was like, I have to meditate 2 hours a day or I'm not a good enough yoga teacher. Like, it's like, I laugh now, but these were real thoughts in my head, and so like, I would compare myself to old men in India. And I was like, why is this happening? And so, yeah, just getting out of that. And then, so energy healing, all of that, that's what I do if someone's going through physical symptoms that need to leave trauma out of the body, or, Kundalini does that as well. It will help release trauma out of the body. And then the third part I work on is obviously the mind, right? Getting to know your thoughts, getting to observe, identifying what your anxiety work is. Like it really is, I guess you would describe it as somatic work, because we take the time of like, when you have a trigger, let's get in the body and really talk to it. Is this an inner child? Is this an archetype? Like, who is it really speaking? A lot of the time it is our inner children, right? And so I'll do exercises to where we upgrade them, or we talk to our different archetypes. Yeah. So, and also like hypnotherapy techniques, right? Or meditation. So I've recorded, past life meditations. I send them to my clients and they'll have an experience just from the recording. Like they'll go into a past life meditation, right? With just the recording. So it's like, there's all these elements of like the mind, the body, the energy, obviously. And that's what I do to help them like kind of to heal and get to know themselves better and have tools.
So I know that if you're part of the problem, you can't be part of the solution, which means we really need that outside help, that mentor, that coach, that guide, to help us through things. Mm-hmm. However, what one simple technique could you give to somebody who might be in their head, anxiety's creeping in, overwhelm's creeping in? What small technique could you give to them right now that they could take 1 minute and just do this, and maybe it will interrupt this cycle of spiraling?
Okay, yeah. So I'd get really in tune with the body, right? I would just kind of close the eyes and then notice where I was feeling the energy. Was it in my throat, heart, stomach, something else, shoulders, and kind of just relax there. And then I would just get to know it more, right? Ask it questions like, okay, what are you trying to tell me? And not really expect an answer, but just be open, because maybe I'll get the message later. And then I'll start to tune in. Okay, so what is it my feeling? If I'm feeling anxious, I'm feeling probably of lack of something, right? So it could be a lack of control of the situation, a lack of safety, or a lack of love and approval. Like you need that approval from someone or something. And so you just kind of tune into it, ask those questions, and then which one it is, let's say it's lack of control, you kind of just hang out in that emotion and you let it be okay that you're feeling this feeling, right? That's the other thing too, is we run away from our feelings, but to really get in tune and to help clear it, we have to understand what it is and then let it be okay. Because a lot of times like you mentioned earlier, we're not able to share our emotions, right? So it would be second nature now to kind of dismiss it or stuff it down. And so you let it be okay that you're feeling this emotion. You're not making it anything about you. And then you start tuning into, okay, what would it feel like if my cells were in control? What would it feel like if I remember that I have control of my breath, or I have control of my perception over this situation? I have control whether I turn a light on or off. And you just start feeling how your nervous system relax, everything starts to relax. And you remember that really that control that we're lacking comes from inside of you. That safety that we're lacking, it comes from the inside. And this love and approval that we feel we're lacking comes from the inside first. So when we train ourselves to just kind of immediately check in, let it be okay, and then help, connect. And you can also do it just by connecting to the light, right? Sometimes I'll just visualize light coming into my cells and helping me relax. So yeah, that would be what I would recommend.
I love it. Thank you. I love that tip. So what does being a professional mean to you?
Oh, that's a good question. When I hear the word professional, I think I'm just programmed to see like someone in a business suit and a tie.
Yeah. So what does it mean to you?
Yeah. So I would consider myself not a professional too, because a professional means like very structured, just can't, just very structured is what I see as someone standing up very tall. But I really just think, professional, I guess I don't know, it's all about like being on time places, right? Or things like that. Like, so I don't know, the word professional doesn't work for me, but my version of professional would be, it was just somebody who has respect for themselves and others, is committed to having open communication, because I think open communication and healthy communication is professional. Like when you are able to have hard conversations sometimes with people or put boundaries or whatever it is, being able to do it in a healthy manner, I think is quite professional, and not everyone knows how to do that. I mean, that's also why I'm in Toastmasters, right? Because I found that a big part of my growth as a professional, right? As someone who works for themselves, like communication is really important, and the need for me to learn how to communicate efficiently was very important. So yeah, that's what I would say. Healthy communication and respect for themselves and others.
I love that. And I love the fact that professionals is not your word, because I ask this question every time because it's a professionals podcast.
Yes, of course.
And
yes.
No one has ever said that. And
really?
I love it because we all store words differently, and some things sit different with us. And I love the fact that you have a vision of what professionals is, and that doesn't feel right for you. So you're going to use your word and your vision and what that looks like to you. And I love your explanation. I think it is somebody who is good in their communication and has respect for themselves and others. So I said that perfectly. I love it. So do you want to share any events that you have coming up, or? That.
Thank you. Well, right now, so if you're a Reiki practitioner and you need help in just feeling more confident, trusting in your gifts, trusting in the messages that are coming through, if you get caught up in your head, like a lot of times I hear or I see people get caught up in the hand positions and activating the symbols correctly. And so this is what we go over in the course, and the money issues, like, not knowing how much to charge, or, feeling bad for taking money for your spiritual gifts, like all the things. So I'm have that program signed up right now, or running right now. And then I also have another program called Path to Prosperity, which is more of a one-to-one experience where we work on how to be able to communicate to your audience in a way on social media, how to get clear in your energy, and then what, steps that you do need to take to be able to create a sustainable business. Because I was finding early in my business, I didn't really know what I was doing, and I didn't know how to. Number one, I'm not a good organized person, but I wanted to help everybody, right? And so it was really hard for me to get really clear so that I can get a sustainable business, know who I'm talking to, build my audience, all of those things. So that's what we go over in Path to Prosperity. And then, of course, all the limiting beliefs that don't allow that to happen, because we can have all the action steps, right? But if it's still not showing up, there's something in our energy that's not allowing it to come through, or allowing us to experience it. So that's called Path to Prosperity. you can connect with me through my Instagram is like my business page or my website, which is Jennifer with one N, Jenifer, then period, last name Freer. And then on my Instagram, in my bio, I have a link tree that gives more information about the programs I just mentioned. And feel free to, send me a DM and let me know that you heard the podcast. And that's cool too.
Yeah, I love that. Cool. And any last minute advice or thoughts or tips or tricks or modalities or any last words you want to share?
Not really. I just want to give gratitude for this experience and for you asking me to come on here and being able to, speak. I think podcast, and I think this is a gift as well. I think, having these conversations are a gift as well. So again, I guess maybe my advice would be something that you do really naturally, or something that comes like that you're excited about, or that you're feeling a pull to go to. I would explore more into that to use as your gift, or just to understand it more. But yeah, thank you, Rachel, so much for having me.
Welcome. I love this. This is one of my favorite
I
conversations
love
to
that.
have. I'm so glad we had it on the professionals, and thank you for being here.
Yeah, thank you.
So we will be back for another episode of the Professionals Podcast. We're here the first Wednesday of every month, so that will be December 6th at 1 p.m. We'll see you then. Thank you.
Bye.